So what motivated you, Martyn, to become involved as guest conductor with the National Youth Brass Band of Great Britain?
I suppose first of all I was asked, which is always nice, but to be serious about it. If I had not joined a brass band, aged 9, Toaster Studio Band in Northamptonshire, there's no way I would be jetting around the world conducting orchestras and operas and youth bands. So I owe everything really to the brass band movement. And when I look back over my journey and compare then to now, really the only thing that remains strong and constant as it was, and possibly even stronger than it was in those days, is the brass band movement. You know, I had free lessons at school on my instruments. That's largely disappeared. I had a full grant and free university tuition. I mean, I was as a student, I was really quite well off. You know, I mean, that must be awful for students to hear now, but coming from a background, the background that I did, you know, I was given money to live on, and that's disappeared. Also, the scholarship I got from the British Council to study conducting, that exchange scheme with Russia, of course, has stopped, and the British Council don't do those exchanges anyway. So I owe so much to the brass band movement, and I guess I did move away. I mean, I didn't consciously shut out the brass band movement for a couple of decades, but in a way, I was so kind of busy with my life as a conductor, and you know, with a wife and 3 children and so on. My world was full, and it's only latterly that I really felt a draw back. I mean, it was always there, and I've always been kind of peripherally interested, and I know lots of people in orchestras that were in brass bands, and we would share stories and we would reminisce, and you know, I'd keep abreast of things. But the brass band world, it's a very particular world, but it has such amazing qualities. You know, the fact that when I joined the band, I was given free lessons. I was given an instrument. I became part of that community of folk that kept me kind of on a bit of a straight and narrow track. I say a bit. You know, I was a bit of a teenage. I was a typical teenager. I was interested in the sport and running around and having a great time. But music and what the band gave me was something very, very specific and very, very focused. And I suppose given that sporting experience that I was quite competitive. So that always helps with music, because you want to practice, you want to get better. You know, I remember as a young teenager, I'd go down to the Albert Hall each year and watch the national finals from somewhere up at the top of the Albert Hall, and be in awe of these bands and think, my goodness, I'd love to be that good. And of course, lo and behold, in '94 or something, I conducted my first orchestral promenade concert in the Albert Hall. I remember saying to the BBC Scottish Orchestra, this is beyond my wildest dreams. You know, if I'd been able to play in a band at the Royal Albert Hall, that would have been a pinnacle. But to actually conduct there was just extraordinary. And of course, I go back to the same thing. It's because I joined the band, and because I had that experience. So if I'm able to give something back by being involved, you know, what's not to enjoy about it? And coming and doing the course, I did one 3 years ago. We were in Taunton, and I had a fantastic time. You know, these young people, they give so much energy and passion, and one does feel that you're making a difference to them. You know, they can be extremely frustrating, of course. You know, they can make the same mistakes, and they don't do this, and they don't do the dynamics, and they don't play together. But that's what they're here for. They're here to be told and explained how music works, how they have to adapt and evolve as musicians. You use your ears, you know, breathe together, phrase. And it's just wonderful to be able to feel that you're making a difference to these incredibly talented young people. So yeah, it's something that I'm proud to be involved.
And how are they getting on?
How are they getting on? Well, where are we now? It's Monday, so we've been rehearsing a couple of days. they're really fantastic. I mean, there's a journey to go through, but what I see really soaking in is this: each time we come back to a piece, there's a huge level of understanding improvement. It's not just a technical thing, you know. That's what it is with music. You read something through and you think, my goodness, this is difficult. The next time you come back to it, those bits that you had struggled with, you've struggled with them, and now you've moved on to the next phase of the development of the rehearsal. And that's happening all the time. My task, I suppose, because we've got about 10 pieces to put together, if not more, is to know that each one is bubbling away at the right level at the right part of the process. But no, they're getting on splendidly, and they're a lovely, lovely group of young people.
And you obviously work with the artistic director of the National Youth Brass Band to put together the programme and the theme for this week, which will culminate in the Royal College of Music concert on Saturday the 9th of August. Could you tell us a bit more about the theme and what inspired you to construct the programme in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bob Childs and I put the programme together just as pieces, and then we came up with the theme. Maybe it was back to front. But I do really feel that we have to include some of the classics. Hence, we've got Herbert Howell's Pageantry, one of my all-time favourite brass band pieces, and Edmund Rubbera's Variations on a Shining River. Both are really, I was going to say, grown-up, kind of serious pieces. The young people might think they're a little bit, dare I say, for them perhaps a bit bland, but they're not at all. They're really serious, seriously constructed, seriously thought through pieces of music. And I do feel that young musicians these days perhaps don't get enough of that in their experience, in their training. So we're celebrating the old there, the traditional, fantastic brass band repertoire. Edward Gregson's 80th birthday this year, we couldn't not mark that, and the fact that Eddie's written this incredible new concerto for Tim de Messenaer, the wonderful, wonderful tenor horn player. So we're celebrating Eddie, and we're celebrating tenor horn as a real fantastic solo instrument. And Eddie has been involved. I've been kind of a fan of Eddie since my teenage years, when he was the seriously kind of new music composer for brass bands when I was a teenager. And then when I went to Goldsmiths to study, lo and behold, unknown to me, he was on the staff. So I've known Eddie very closely since I was 18, and we've remained friends. And it's wonderful that he'll be visiting the course to work with us all, actually, on the music. The other thing that, of course, is so important is that we discover new composing talent. So we've got 4 world premieres. We've got Daniel Hall's commission piece, Shapeshifter, and then we've got 3 competition winners, shorter pieces, but featuring 3 of the composers that entered the youth band's composing competition. And of course, without new music, you don't get old music. You've got to have new music that you've got to, again, give the young composers the experience of hearing their music. They'll come and listen to us rehearse. They'll come and hear what doesn't work, what works, what we have to adjust along the way. So that's also hugely significant. And then, of course, the sad departure in the last year of Gary Howarth, Elgar Howarth, who was the band's president, and again, a friend of mine, a colleague, an advisor when I was a young conductor, first coming out into the world, and a great figure, a really significant figure in the brass band world, in all the work he did with the Grindthorpe band, with the youth band, and with his compositions and arrangements. So we're featuring a short, fun piece of Gary's, and his arrangement of 2 movements of pictures and exhibitions. So I think there are celebrations galore in the programme. So the theme of the concert is celebration. And I guess the most important thing we're celebrating is the 80 young musicians who make up the band. They're in a cause to celebrate, if nothing else.